What is up, everyone? It's Tyler Sheldon, this Coffee with a Beauty reviewer. I am your friendly neighborhood coffee snob. And today, folks, is a very special 6-episode series where I'm talking about the Lord of the Rings series. Not just Lord of the Rings, but also The Hobbit. And I am just absolutely ecstatic that I'm now doing this. I mean, if you have not yet seen my one video where I actually reviewed the Lord of the Rings trilogy, I did that with a friend of mine from the Powerful Project. And if you want to check it out, you can just check it out in this box right up here if you want to watch like the more in-depth review for that whole series. But this is my one and done review for each episode. So yeah, with that out of the way, let's get started with today's video. So this is episode 1 from my review series for the Peter Jackson series, and more importantly is that this is a trilogy that holds dear to my heart because this is a movie that was really based on my later years, more importantly kind of like in my teen period, because that is actually when the whole trilogy started coming out. It came out back in 2001, 21 years ago, which is incredible just to even fathom at this point, because 21 years ago, Lord of the Rings really changed how we see cinema, how we see Tolkien works, and without a doubt, Peter Jackson was just the right director at the right time to create such a perfect, flawless trilogy that I would hold this trilogy to be in the top 3 best trilogies ever made in film history. So in The Fellowship of the Ring, this movie, it really did a really great job in setting the groundworks of what was to come in this whole series, that like you're getting kind of like these introductions into like different kinds of races, such as like the elves, the men, the dwarves, the wizards, and even the Dark Lord Sauron, and especially hobbits. And they did such a great job into kind of like giving us kind of like these little Easter eggs that actually came from The Hobbit itself, the book itself, because a lot of people don't know this, but The Hobbit was actually written before Lord of the Rings. So I'm not going to go into like this whole history trivia for you guys, but like long story short, Tolkien, he wrote The Hobbit first. Publisher, he was like, I really like this ring that you wrote, but it was just written as a magic ring. Do you think you can make like a trilogy for this? And Tolkien was like, yeah, I'll do that. And the rest was history. This is about a movie that I hold dear to my heart. Not just this movie, but The Two Towers and The Return of the King. Like I said before, this is a flawless trilogy as a whole. But when you look at each film, you can definitely tell that there are some issues here and there, but this is more kind of like small little nitpicks, because I would still consider this one to be by far some of the best cinema ever. And you would just even go like, wow, the CGI on this movie looks way better than some of the stuff that we get nowadays, like even in several Marvel projects that I'm like, it feels like we're going backwards here. Look at Lord of the Rings here. They did a better job at CGI than what Marvel is doing right now. And that's a little bit alarming. But that's what I mean, is that like the makeup, the prosthetics, the practical effects, everything that went into this movie was all done in more practical works than CGI. But what they did, they implemented CGI when it was necessary. but everything else was all practical effects, all done in real time. And that's the very thing that just made these movies so good. It just felt so grounded. It felt so real. Like, it really felt like that you can actually understand the emotions, the passion that went into this whole series, and even the whole cast, which I'm not going to name everyone in this movie. It is just a flawless casting choices in Tolkien's work to play particular roles. Most importantly, Gandalf, Ian McKellen. He is Gandalf. Ian McKellen, he made the character. I love him. He's a really good actor. And more importantly, I just really, really loved the whole idea of why they made this movie to begin with. Because I really loved the themes. I really enjoyed the message. It didn't feel so preachy, but it felt just a little bit of preachy here and there. But I just really enjoyed just kind of like the parallels when it came to kind of like biblical stories. Like Gandalf, he's kind of like the Jesus in the group. But this is called the Fellowship of the Ring, and I really enjoyed that they gave us kind of like little backstories for each character, in which we can now learn to love them for who they are. So like you got the four hobbits, Sam, Frodo, Pippin, Merry. Then you got the likes of Aragorn, Legolas, Gimli, Gandalf. And, oh yeah, another very sharp character, Boromir. Pun intended. But also to point out that I would definitely have to say that there was a couple of moments where this CGI was a little bit wonky, but it still holds up to this day. Especially for like the time period when it was filmed, like when you got the scene where the Fellowship is fighting all the goblins in Khazad-dûm before they encountered the Balrog, the Durin's Bane. But they're in this room and they're fighting a lot of goblins, and all of a sudden a troll comes into the mix, and that is like the most heaviest CGI moment of the entire movie. But you can tell it's CGI, but I must say I'm okay with it. Aside from like this really awesome beginning sequence, it did a really good job into kind of like segueing us into feeling more at peace in the Shire. Like, this is the one thing that I just love about the movies. All located in one beautiful country that I had the privilege to actually live in. That's right. I actually got inspired by this trilogy, that it inspired me to go to New Zealand, study abroad. Best moment of my life is that I got to go to college there. I got to experience some locations where they actually filmed those scenes. So without a doubt, the locations are beautiful, and I'm like, oh yeah, I was there. So it makes it more enjoyable because I actually got the chance to actually see some actual locations where they filmed these scenes. So it just makes it a lot more fun when I actually watch the movies. But aside from that, the action, it just still holds up to this day. Even the fight between Aragorn and the Nazgul at the Weathertop, another fantastic fight scene. The Fellowship against the orcs and the troll, a lot of fun. But more importantly, the best action moment in the entire movie is the highlight of Gandalf. Yes, and this is where this is coming from. You got Snorlax being Gandalf. You shall not pass. The best epic moment in the entire trilogy altogether. Just the best moment. You get to see like this gorgeous looking Durin's Bane, the Balrog of Morgoth. The Balrog of Morgoth, this guy is like, he's like up to this level of like the evilness. Like, he was actually a sergeant to Morgoth. So like, you're like, oh geez, this is actually someone you don't want to mess with. He killed Durin. But the whole purpose of this movie is that it is about friendship. It is about accepting whatever happened in the past has led to a moment like this. And I really think that Sir Ian McKellen, he did an incredible job in his acting. He just really delivered in the role of Gandalf, and he had the most perfect line that really emphasized the purpose of the Fellowship of the Ring. And I'm gonna quote this for you guys, that way you can understand what the theme is in this movie, because this is by far like the best line in the entire film, and this is actually the very scene that gave Ian McKellen a Oscar nomination. This is like some of the best acting I've seen him do in a long time. I mean, I'm not dismissing that he's like no good anymore, but he is. But I'm just gonna quote this here for you, okay? Are you ready to hear this? Many that live deserves death. Some that die deserve life. Can you give them to them, Frodo? Do not be too eager to deal without death in judgment. Even the very wise cannot see all ends. We all have to decide is what to do with the time that is given to us. There are other forces at work in this world, Frodo, besides the will of evil.
And like, my world rocked. It's like, are you crying? What's that? Are you crying? Am I crying? No, I'm not crying. You're crying.
And the Fellowship of the Ring is definitely a fantastic movie all about fellowship. That's the whole purpose of the book, all the purpose of the movie. That's the very thing that I really enjoy about these films, is that I really love a good story. It's a story about good and evil. It's about this group of people who is combining together, setting aside their own prejudices, their own biases. But Gimli and Legolas, they start to develop this adoring friendship. It is all about friendship in the Fellowship of the Ring. I love the message. This is a true 9.5 out of 10 film. So that was my review for the movie Lord of the Rings, the Fellowship of the Ring. And thank you so much for watching this video. If you have not yet done so, please subscribe to my channel, as it really helps me out. Also, press that bell button so you'll be notified for future videos. And also press the like button down there, but don't press the dislike button. That's a bad one. Anyways, keep on drinking coffee, and I will see you guys next time.